cutter. I have never used this one. I've got a neighbor lived down the road, and he was getting rid of his tools a long time ago, and he sold me this one. This is a Miller Spectrum 300 CatMatic. I plugged it in, it came on, I put the air pressure to it, and it's showing the pressure here. Now on these, when you run them off an air compressor, you have to have a water filter, which I have a brand new one in a case here that's never been installed. Right here. Got all the attachments, everything for it. This one also has new consumables, which these consumables are basically the tips and things, and they can be quite expensive. And I've got some right here. This diagram shows how the consumables go. And this is the gun, and this is the ground. I'm just going to see, and I haven't put the filter on there, and if I decide to keep mine, I will put it on there, because the worst thing for a plasma cutter is the water. You don't ever want to get water in the line, but I'm going to just run it enough to see if it'll strike up a fire over here on this piece of metal that's sitting on the ground. If it will, I know that hers works. Hers is the kind with the built-in compressor, which has its advantages too. But if this worked this way, I might just decide I'm better off using this one. So y'all cross your fingers. We'll see if we get a little fire strike up. It comes on. It says ready. I think my breaker went off, but this is cutting. I think it probably needs quite a lot of pressure, and there's probably maybe an adjustment on it to adjust the pressure that comes into this. My air compressor's acting up a little bit. The compressor shows that it's got about 100 pounds, and this shows, what is that, 40, 60, 80, this shows about 70 pounds here, which is probably not enough, but this is lower than the air compressor gauge is showing, so there may be an adjustment. I saw this adjustment here, which might affect that. So probably with True Blue 3-year warranty. Rated output. Volts. Duty cycle. Now this will run off compressed gas or air. Connect only clean dry gas air to inlet. Set machine to gas air set mode. Adjust regulator to 60 psi. Well, that's about what it's got. This one can also be hooked up 220 or 110. I think I'll go in the house and do some research on this and see what one of these would bring, because I know about what that other one over there would bring. Miller Spectrum 300 CatMatic. I'll cut y'all off. I'll go in the house and I'll do a little research on that. So I went inside, did a little research. I found one of these for sale. These are no longer made, but you can still get parts and consumables and stuff for them. I found one for sale on eBay for more than $1,000, but I also found one for around $200, but it was listed as for parts. And this looks a lot like some of the consumables that I already have. Look in my box over here, because I was looking at some consumables the other day and thinking, I wonder what those were for. Okay, so I had another plasma cutter that was a Eastwood, I think. I think there's plasma consumables I have over there are for that. But then I've also got some in here. Let's take a look at these ones. These might be used or something. These might be some used ones. I did read where, yeah, that one's got a little tiny hole in it. I bet I could get some consumables for this one up at I got a local welding shop here in town. I bet I could get some for it, and it may be that if I could, now this is gas or air set. This one has kind of a giant hole in the end of it, which I don't know if that's correct or not. That one is stopped up. So you might want to try a different end on here just to see if that does any better. Apparently these things also can run on gas. There's different gases that are kind of recommended for different kinds of cuts. I'm just going to try using it with a little bit different tip that I've got here. It doesn't have such a giant hole, but I'm thinking a smaller hole might actually be an advantage, because then you wouldn't you would get more pressure out of a smaller hole than a larger hole. And I'm just going to set these. I want to keep this one aside, the one that came out of it. I also plugged this into a different socket, because having this and the compressor on the same line blew a thing. And I know that Eric Paulson sent me some colored glasses that had magnification. I wonder if I could find those, because that's what I need. I need to be able to look at this somewhat without burning my eyes. I might can put these sunglasses on right over my regular glasses. That might work. Look funny, but let's see what happens now. Cut's really good. I think what I might do is just keep this one, clean it up, get some new consumables in it, put the air filter, water filter on it, and keep this one, which is mine, and then sell hers, which I think is worth. I think hers is worth about $700. So I could go ahead and advertise it. This was a great deal. This guy that sold me this, he told me it was a good one, but he said, I guess it still works. It worked last time I used it, and it does still work. I'll make a run up to the welding shop and pick up some new consumables for it, and I'll set this up in such a way that I've got that filter. It used to be back when I had a little cheap plasma cutter, and there's some company out there that sells these little Chinese plasma cutters. It actually worked fairly well, but it just ran through consumables. Everything in the tip, they had little ceramic spacers and things like that, and they would crack and break. You know, it's like breaking your mama's china cups. But with this, making that cut, and all I did was, I had an end on there that had a hole that you could have stuck the tip of an ink pen in, and this one has a hole that's just super tiny. And see, the tiny hole, if you put pressure on air or gas and pass it through a hole, it's kind of like a river. When a river is narrow, it'll run faster because you still have the same amount of air going through there, but it didn't have as big a hole for it to go through. And that's what you got here. With a smaller hole, you get a lot higher pressure. And I made all this cut right here with that. So I think that's exactly what I'm going to do, is keep what I got. And yeah, just like I said. And then that frees me up to sell hers. I was thinking I wanted to keep one. I didn't realize this even worked. I've never even tried to make this thing work, but it seems like it's doing a good job. So it might actually be more powerful than the one with the built-in air compressor. So that settles that for now. Now I want to find a nice place to set this. So yeah, I'll do that. You know, a lot of what I'm doing today is cleaning the garage. And I think what I'm going to do next is do what I was going to do with that welder over there. The Millermatic. I've got this one here, this Millermatic, and I bought new tips for it, a tank and some new lines. I want to test it between my welder and the other. I've got a Millermatic 140 and a Millermatic 135, and the 140 is supposed to have kind of a lot more options. But I'm going to hook them both up, and I'm going to get some metal out, and we're going to weld some thin metal and see what we think. Oh, the joy. It's a good thing to do on a rainy day, you know, and kind of a combination of checking these tools out and at the same time cleaning the garage out, which really needed a lot of cleaning. Amazing how much dirt and dust can get in the garage. A lot of stuff is just like leaves blowing in and mixing with grinding dust. I was looking at my shelves the other day back here behind where I usually grind and cut and weld right over here on this big vise that Rusty Acres gave me. And I was noticing all this black dust all over these shelves back here, and I was thinking, I wonder if that is all metal. I wonder if you took a magnet and set it up there, it would pull all that dust up off that wood. Just a curiosity, you know. But probably what it is, just ground up bits of metal. Okay, so I'm going to put the filter back in the box for safekeeping, and then set that plasma cutter up somewhere. And then get on with testing out the other welder over there. Oh, the joy. Something fun to play with. She's got an air compressor that's bigger than mine, and mine is actually a pretty good air compressor. She's got one of those with a great big tank that stands up about, 3 or 4 feet tall. And I don't really necessarily feel I need that because I'm happy with mine. I noticed my little air thing blew off a couple times over here, little air pressure release. But not sure why that's happening, but hey, things happen, right? All right, I'm going to cut y'all off again. I've still got a lot of cleaning to do, figuring out where things go and how things go, where I'm going to put things. Yeah, a lot of things to think about. Thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out with me. Thanks for putting up with me in spite of everything. I know I'm not as handsome as Burt Reynolds or as interesting as Dead-Eye Dan playing the guitar, but I do the best I can. All right.